the other issue that William's been focusing on this week, as well as football, and I suspect football has been very high on his priority list this week, is homelessness. And it's been 1 year since he launched Homewards, his initiative to try and tackle homelessness in 6 key locations across the UK. And it's been a real focus for him. The teams that he's assembled in all those locations and working from the Royal Foundation have been convening and getting people together. It's been the focus of the first year, getting people together. And today he was down in Brixton at an event there, meeting some of the people who have been working with him in the Royal Foundation, and some of the people who experience homelessness over the years, who've turned their lives around and who've got involved in the Homewards project. And I was down there and sort of met a few of them, and there were some extraordinary life stories there, actually, and some hopeful stories. And I think one of the things that William is always very keen to focus on, and we've heard this from Earthshot, haven't we, is being an optimist and being hopeful. He acknowledges that it's a huge, very difficult issue that's faced by too many people. And you and I went to a briefing on Monday where, one of the people he's working with from Crisis said, absolutely, the figures are getting worse. Mm-hmm. So this challenge is
going in the wrong direction.
They are going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
It's getting harder. But what was interesting to hear from William today, and he gave a speech at Brixton at this event, was the focus for him is as much as sort of tackling the numbers in these 6 locations and getting, partnerships from organisations together who've never spoken to each other before, is this idea of changing the narrative. And he said in his speech that I created Homewards because I wanted us to look at the issue of homelessness through a different lens. Mm-hmm. And that came up last weekend because we got the news that he is going to be involved in launching a new exhibition at the Saatchi Gallery in London over the summer, which will feature works from famous artists like the photographer Rankin, but also much less famous artists and a lot of people won't have heard of, who will create artworks that will go in this exhibition that will be about their lived experience of homelessness. And one of those is Dave Martin, who is the Big Issue vendor that William has gone out on the streets with and sold the Big Issue with twice. Yeah. So for the Prince, and he's going to take part in this new ITV documentary in the autumn, I think we get this sort of feeling from his work that changing people's sort of preconceptions about homelessness, focusing on answering homelessness, is as important to him as actually getting the numbers down too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's talking about changing the narrative, isn't he?
Yeah.
This documentary, I think, will be interesting in the autumn. So this is the 2-part, 60-minute episodes for ITV.
It's got a bold title, hasn't it?
What's the title?
William, We Can Solve Homelessness.
Oh, yeah. A lot to live up to.
Well, it's a big old, bold title.
But as he said today, I truly believe we can end homelessness. Mm. And I think what's interesting that they're doing with this, with all the Royal Foundation stuff, is this preventative element. Because how depressing to be a member of the royal family, to go around and see all these problems in society, to try to solve them, or to try to get charitable funding to solve all these problems with society, when you must always be thinking, well, can we just stop it happening in the first place, which is exactly what he wants to do with Homewards. And at first I was pretty cynical because, how can bloke with so many palaces really kind of lecture us on, homelessness today, and what is he doing about it when he has all these homes that he helicopters in between. But you look at the convening power of the events today, people like, he's got IKEA, he's got Homebase, he's got Freshfields, the law firm, he's got Knight Frank, he's got all these huge names now together, and everybody wants to meet Prince William, but then he's also kind of bringing people with these lived experience of homelessness, like this amazing Dr. Sabrina Cohen-Hatton that we want to get on the podcast. I was speaking to her on Times Radio. She's unbelievably inspirational. She lived on the streets as a teenager and somehow managed to get not just a degree, a PhD, rose through the ranks of the fire service after joining as a firefighter at 18, and is now kind of inspiring kind of national policy on how people fight fires. She's just incredible. But so many people like that who are advocates for his scheme, I think it is going to be a success.
We heard today as well, after that event in Brixton, that there was an announcement earlier this year, and I wrote a story in February that he was building social housing on Duchy of Cornwall land in
yes, that was a good
Cornwall,
story. That was a good story.
Because I got him to say that in the interview last year when I said, you've got all these
Well,
palaces.
you sort of, what are you doing about it? Which is a great question.
And there was a sort of pause. And I was like, so there's going to be no affordable housing on your land then? And he sort of shifted uncomfortably in his seat and went, well, no, but I'm going to do some social housing. And then the press secretary shifted even more uncomfortably in his seat. But then he did it. And in February, they started building in Cornwall and Landsted. And today they've said that he's involved in a lot more plans on Duchy of Cornwall. So there will be more social housing built for people at risk of homelessness on his land. And that can only be a good thing. Because of course, he said last year, I know people are going to say to me, who are you to talk about homelessness with exactly as you said, all these houses and palaces? But either you do nothing or you try and do something.
And also I think that this element with the kind of Royal Foundation as well, this idea of they're preventing it. But I said to them on Monday at the briefing, well, why is it a 5-year programme?
Yeah.
What, you really think you're going to, job done and walk away in 5 years? But the answer to that was really interesting, which was like, no, we want to put those sort of trial areas, those 6 trial areas, put the processes in place so that they can then manage it. This kind of this sustainable pattern, because I think that's what they saw with the King when he was Prince of Wales, that he had squillions of charities that he set up. And then, obviously had a long time until he got to the throne. It was all fine until he was nearing the throne and thinking, what am I going to do with all these charities? They're going to have to start standing on their own feet. Whereas William now is perhaps being more realistic, perhaps because of the situation that he's in with, 75-year-old father on the throne, knowing that he's the heir. Yeah. This has to be work that can be sustainable, that you can start a project, put all the
Is it coming? Do you know what we really wanted William to say today, which he just staunchly refused to? It's coming homewards.
It's coming homewards. Gosh, he missed a trick, didn't he, there? But he did say his voice was hoarse from all the shouting, cheering England on, didn't he?
Dale and Skinner should do an anthem for his homelessness project. It's coming homewards.
Coming homewards. Yeah.
I hope it is, Kate. I hope when we next record.
Oh, let's be sitting here next week and with a win. Yes. Come on.
It's
happening.
King Harry Kane.
King Harry Kane.